The vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, a midnight blue canvas stretching endlessly beneath the inky black sky. A lone aircraft, Air Transat Flight 236, an Airbus A330, cuts through the darkness. Its navigation lights a faint glimmer against the star-studded backdrop. This is not a story of a typical transatlantic flight. This is the chronicle of an extraordinary event, a testament to human resilience and the delicate balance of aviation. The year is 2001. The digital age is dawning, but the fundamental physics of flight remain unchanged. This particular journey began at Toronto Pearson International Airport. The aircraft, laden with 293 passengers and 13 crew members, all bound for Lisbon, Portugal. A routine flight, or so it seemed. The powerful engines of the A330, designed to conquer the vast distances of intercontinental travel, hummed with a confident rhythm, propelling the aircraft eastward. The initial hours unfolded without incident. The crew, seasoned professionals, monitored the complex array of instruments, their eyes scanning the digital displays that provided a constant stream of data. Fuel flow, engine temperature, airspeed, altitude, every parameter was meticulously observed. The passengers, a diverse mix of individuals, settled into their seats, some seeking sleep, others engrossed in books or conversations. Beneath the veneer of normalcy, however, an insidious problem was developing, a flaw that would soon transform a routine flight into a desperate struggle for survival. Unbeknownst to the crew, a fuel leak had begun in the aircraft's right engine. A seemingly minor defect, a chafing of fuel lines due to maintenance that had not been completed correctly, would lead to a catastrophic loss of fuel. The fuel, the lifeblood of the aircraft, was silently draining away, pouring into the vastness of the Atlantic. The leak, initially slow, gradually increased, the rate of loss accelerating with each passing minute. The first subtle anomalies appeared on the flight deck's displays. Low oil temperature and high oil pressure readings on the right engine. These were warnings, whispers of a brewing crisis, but in the complexity of modern aviation, these warnings can be masked by other factors. The crew, faced with these initial indications, began troubleshooting, attempting to diagnose the cause of the irregularities. They began to cross-feed fuel from the left fuel tanks to the right engine in order to balance the fuel load of the aircraft. This action would then cause more fuel to be lost through the existing leak. The scale of the problem remained hidden, obscured by the vastness of the ocean and the complexity of the aircraft's systems. The digital age, for all its advancements, could not yet fully replicate the human senses, the ability to detect subtle changes that lie beyond the realm of data. The smell of jet fuel, a telltale sign of a leak, was lost in the recirculated air of the cabin. The visual confirmation, the sight of fuel streaming from the engine, was impossible in the darkness of the night. As the aircraft continued its eastward trajectory, the fuel levels steadily diminished. The crew, still focused on the initial anomalies, remained unaware of the impending catastrophe. The digital displays, while providing a wealth of information, could not convey the full extent of the situation. The human element, the ability to interpret and synthesize data, was about to be tested in the most extreme of circumstances. The moment of truth arrived with stark and sudden clarity. The right engine, starved of fuel, sputtered and then fell silent. The hum of the powerful turbine, a constant companion of the journey, ceased abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence. The aircraft, now operating on a single engine, began to lose altitude. The cockpit, once a realm of calm professionalism, was now charged with a sense of urgency. Then the unthinkable happened. The second, left engine, also starved of fuel, ceased operation. The aircraft, now stripped of its motive power, became a glider, a massive metal bird descending through the night sky. The silence in the cockpit was profound, broken only by the faint hiss of the wind rushing past the fuselage. The crew, faced with the unimaginable, began to grapple with the reality of their situation. The aircraft, a marvel of engineering, was now subject to the fundamental laws of physics. Gravity, the relentless force that pulls all objects towards the Earth, took command. The A330, designed to soar through the skies, was now descending, its fate hanging in the balance. The crew, their training and experience honed through years of practice, began to work with a calm and focused intensity. Their goal, to maintain control of the aircraft, to guide it towards a safe landing, to defy the odds. The darkness outside the cockpit windows was absolute, the only light coming from the instrument panels, casting an eerie glow over the crew's faces. The vastness of the Atlantic, once a symbol of adventure, now loomed as a potential graveyard. The crew, their minds racing, began to assess their options, their primary objective, to find a suitable landing site. The Azores, a group of islands, located in the mid-Atlantic, offered the only glimmer of hope. Jager's Air Base, a military airfield on Terceira Island, was their target. But the distance was vast, the aircraft's glide ratio was limited, and the darkness was their constant adversary. The aircraft was descending at a rapid rate. The crew had to act fast. The remainder of the scene will continue the description of the crew's actions and the reactions of the passengers as the plane continues to glide. The silence within the cabin of Flight 236 was a stark contrast to the usual hum of a jetliner. The absence of engine noise, the subtle vibrations that normally permeated the aircraft, created an unsettling stillness. Passengers, initially unaware of the gravity of the situation, began to notice the unusual quiet. A sense of unease rippled through the cabin, a silent question mark hanging in the air. The cabin lights, dimmed for the night flight, cast long, distorted shadows, adding to the growing sense of apprehension. The crew, their faces illuminated by the dim glow of the emergency lighting, moved with a quiet efficiency. Their priority was to maintain order and prevent panic. The cabin crew, trained for such emergencies, began to reassure passengers, their voices calm and steady, but their eyes betraying the underlying tension. They explained that the aircraft had experienced a technical issue, that they were diverting to a nearby airfield. The words were carefully chosen, designed to minimize alarm, but the truth, the stark reality of a powerless aircraft gliding through the night, remained unspoken. In the cockpit, the atmosphere was one of intense concentration. The pilots, their hands moving with practiced precision, worked to maximize the aircraft's glide performance. They adjusted the control surfaces, seeking the optimal angle of descent, the delicate balance between speed and lift. Their eyes scanned the navigation displays, searching for any sign of the Azores, any beacon of hope in the vast expanse of the ocean. The aircraft's glide ratio, the distance it could travel for every foot of altitude lost, was their lifeline. Every nautical mile gained was a victory against the relentless pull of gravity. The pilots, their minds calculating and recalculating, assessed their chances of reaching Jager's airbase. The distance was daunting, the altitude was dwindling, and the darkness was their constant companion. The radio crackled to life, the voice of air traffic control breaking the silence. The controllers, alerted to the emergency, were working to provide assistance, to guide the stricken aircraft towards its destination. They relayed weather information, runway conditions, and any available navigational aids. But the communication was intermittent, the signal weakened by the vast distance and the aircraft's low altitude. The passengers, now fully aware that something was amiss, began to grapple with the reality of their situation. The initial unease had morphed into a quiet fear, a sense of vulnerability in the face of the unknown. Some prayed, some held hands, Some simply stared out the window, their eyes searching the darkness for any sign of land. The cabin crew, their composure unwavering, continued to reassure and comfort, their presence a beacon of calm in the midst of uncertainty. The aircraft continued its descent, the altimeter needle steadily falling. The pilots, their focus unwavering, worked to maintain control, to guide the massive aircraft towards its target. The darkness outside the cockpit windows was absolute, the only light coming from the instrument panels, casting an eerie glow over their faces. The stars, once a distant backdrop, now seemed to surround the aircraft, a reminder of its isolation in the vastness of the night. The realization that they were running out of time and altitude became increasingly clear. The pilots began to prepare for a possible ditching in the ocean. This was a last resort, a desperate measure, but it was a contingency that had to be considered. The cabin crew, their voices calm and steady, began to instruct passengers on emergency procedures, demonstrating how to use life vests and prepare for a water landing. The tension in the cockpit was palpable, a silent acknowledgement of the gravity of the situation. The pilots, their faces etched with concentration, worked to maintain their composure, to project an air of calm confidence. Their responsibility was immense, the lives of 306 people hanging in the balance. Then, a faint glimmer of light appeared on the horizon. The Azores, a beacon of hope in the darkness. The pilots, their spirits lifted, adjusted their course, their eyes fixed on the distant lights. The aircraft, its glide path carefully calculated, was now heading directly towards Jager's air base. The hope that they could make the airfield rather than ditch in the ocean grew stronger. The remaining distance to the airport was still substantial. The airport was still out of sight. The aircraft was still losing altitude. The scene will continue with the approach of the aircraft to the airport. The faint glimmer of light on the horizon grew steadily brighter, resolving into the distinct pattern of runway lights. Jager's airbase, a beacon of civilization in the vast expanse of the Atlantic, was now within reach. The pilots, their focus unwavering, adjusted their descent, carefully managing the remaining altitude and glide path. The tension in the cockpit, though still palpable, was now tempered with a renewed sense of hope. The aircraft, its massive airframe gliding silently through the night, approached the airfield. The runway lights, a stark contrast to the surrounding darkness, illuminated the landing strip, a narrow ribbon of concrete amidst the rugged terrain of Terceira Island. The pilots, their eyes fixed on the runway, made final adjustments to their approach, their hands moving with practiced precision. The air traffic controllers, their voices calm and reassuring, provided constant updates, guiding the aircraft towards its landing. They relayed wind direction, runway alignment, and any other relevant information. The communication, though still intermittent, was now clear and concise, a vital link between the stricken aircraft and the ground. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. The passengers, their faces pale in the dim light, braced themselves for the landing. The cabin crew, their composure unwavering, continued to provide reassurance, reminding passengers of emergency procedures and bracing positions. The silence in the cabin was broken only by the faint hiss of the wind and the occasional muffled cough or sigh. The aircraft, its descent carefully managed, crossed the threshold of the runway. The pilots, their hands moving with practiced precision, flared the aircraft, gently lifting the nose to reduce the rate of descent. The wheels touched down with a gentle thud, a collective sigh of relief echoing through the cabin. The aircraft, its momentum carrying it down the runway, began to slow. However, the ordeal was not yet over. With no engine power, the aircraft was unable to use reverse thrust to slow its speed. The pilots, relying solely on the aircraft's brakes, worked to bring the massive machine to a stop. The runway, though long, seemed to shrink as the aircraft continued its roll. The brakes, pushed to their limits, began to emit a faint squeal. the sound of stressed metal. The aircraft, its momentum gradually dissipating, finally came to a halt, a mere few hundred feet from the end of the runway. The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the faint hiss of the hydraulic systems and the collective sigh of relief from the passengers and crew. The emergency services, alerted to the impending landing, rushed to the aircraft. Fire, trucks, ambulances and support vehicles surrounded the A330, their flashing lights illuminating the scene. The passengers, their faces etched with relief, began to disembark, their feet touching solid ground for the first time in hours. The scene on the runway was one of controlled chaos. The emergency personnel, their movements efficient and coordinated, began to assess the aircraft and provide assistance to the passengers. The pilots, their faces drawn but their eyes filled with relief, exited the cockpit, their ordeal finally over. The aftermath of the landing was a whirlwind of activity. Passengers were escorted to the terminal, where they received medical attention and emotional support. The crew, their professionalism and skill having averted a potential disaster, were debriefed and commended for their actions. The aircraft, its fuel tanks empty and its engines silent, was towed to a hangar for inspection. The story of Flight 236 spread rapidly, capturing the attention of the world. The miraculous gliding of the A330, a feat of extraordinary skill and determination, became a symbol of human resilience in the face of adversity. The pilots, their names etched into aviation history, were hailed as heroes. The passengers there lived spared by a combination of skill, luck, and the sheer determination of the crew, recounted their harrowing experience, their voices filled with gratitude and awe. The investigation into the fuel leak began and would reveal the maintenance error that caused the near catastrophe. The scene will continue with the reactions of the world and the final moments of the passengers as they arrive in Lisbon. The world's media descended upon Jager's airbase, their cameras and microphones capturing the raw emotion of the survivors. News broadcasts around the globe relayed the extraordinary tale of Flight 236, the miracle glide, as it was quickly dubbed. Images of the grounded A330, its empty fuel tanks a stark reminder of the near disaster, were juxtaposed with footage of relieved passengers embracing loved ones. The story resonated deeply, a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. The pilots, Captain Robert Piché and First Officer Dirk de Jager, became instant celebrities, their faces gracing the front pages of newspapers and the screens of television sets. They were lauded for their exceptional skill and composure, their ability to maintain control of the aircraft under immense pressure. Their actions were analyzed and dissected by aviation experts who marveled at their ability to maximize the aircraft's glide performance and execute a successful landing in near-impossible conditions. The passengers, their voices filled with gratitude and awe, recounted their harrowing experience. They spoke of the initial unease, the growing sense of dread, and the ultimate relief of touching down on solid ground. They praised the professionalism of the cabin crew, whose calm demeanor and reassuring words helped to maintain order and prevent panic. The shared experience forged a bond among the passengers, a connection that would endure long after the flight had ended. The investigation into the fuel leak, conducted by aviation authorities, revealed a critical maintenance error. A fractured fuel line, caused by improper maintenance procedures, had allowed fuel to drain from the aircraft's right engine. The error, though seemingly minor, had triggered a chain of events that nearly resulted in a catastrophic loss of life. The findings of the investigation led to stricter maintenance protocols and improved safety measures, ensuring that such an incident would not be repeated. The aftermath of Flight 236 extended beyond the immediate impact on the passengers and crew. The incident served as a powerful reminder of the inherent risks of aviation, even in the modern era of advanced technology. It highlighted the importance of rigorous maintenance procedures, the critical role of human skill and judgment, and the delicate balance between technology and human intervention. Days after the landing, the passengers of Flight 236, their ordeal, behind them, continued their journey to Lisbon. They boarded a replacement aircraft, their faces etched with a mixture of relief and lingering apprehension. The flight to Lisbon was uneventful, a stark contrast to the harrowing experience they had endured. As the aircraft descended towards Lisbon Airport, the passengers gazed out the windows, their eyes searching for familiar landmarks. Upon arrival in Lisbon, they were greeted by a throng of media and airport officials. The passengers, their voices, filled with emotion, recounted their experience once more, their words echoing the sentiments of gratitude and relief. They expressed their appreciation for the pilots, the cabin crew, and the emergency services that had played a vital role in their survival. The arrival in Lisbon marked the end of a remarkable journey, a journey that had tested the limits of human endurance and resilience. The passengers, their lives forever changed by the experience, carried with them a profound sense of gratitude and a newfound appreciation for the fragility of life. The story of Flight 236, the miracle glide, became an enduring symbol of hope and the triumph of the human spirit. The A330, after repairs, went back into service and flew for many more years. The tale of Flight 236 would be retold for years to come, a reminder of the power of human skill and the years that followed the miracle glide, saw the story of Flight 236 become a permanent fixture in aviation lore. It was a narrative of stark contrasts, the serene vastness of the Atlantic versus the claustrophobic tension of the cockpit, the cold precision of aviation technology against the warmth of human resilience. The incident was dissected in countless aviation safety conferences, its lessons woven into the fabric of pilot training and aircraft maintenance protocols. The importance of clear communication, meticulous adherence to procedures, and the ability to adapt to unforeseen circumstances were driven home with renewed emphasis. Captain Robert Piché and First Officer Dirk de Jager, though reluctant to embrace the label of heroes, became symbols of exemplary airmanship. They continued their careers, their names forever linked to the extraordinary feat of gliding a massive airliner to safety. Their story served as an inspiration to aspiring pilots, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, skill and composure could prevail. The passengers of Flight 236, their lives touched by a brush with mortality, formed a unique community. They held reunions, sharing their memories and reaffirming the bonds forged in the crucible of fear and relief. Their shared experience had given them a profound appreciation for life, a sense of gratitude that resonated through their stories. The A330, the very aircraft that had defied the laws of gravity, returned to service. It continued to fly, a silent testament to the resilience of both machine and human. Each flight, each takeoff and landing carried an echo of that fateful night. Over the Atlantic, the legacy of Flight 236 extended beyond the immediate participants. It served as a reminder of the inherent complexities of modern aviation, the delicate balance between technological advancement and human fallibility. It underscored the importance of continuous improvement in safety standards, the need for vigilance in maintenance, and the unwavering dedication of those who safeguard the skies. The story was retold in documentaries, books, and films, each retelling adding a layer of understanding to the extraordinary events of that night. It became a part of popular culture, a symbol of hope and the triumph of the human spirit. In the years that followed, aviation safety continued to evolve. Technological advancements brought new levels of automation and monitoring, but the human element remained paramount. The lessons of Flight 236, the importance of skill, judgment and resilience were never forgotten, and so the story of Flight 236 lives on, a timeless reminder that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, the human spirit can soar. It stands as a testament to the dedication of those who work to ensure the safety of air travel and to the extraordinary capacity of human beings to overcome the impossible.